Welcome, and thank you for joining us for MTP's latest episode of our YouTube series, MTP Reunited. Tonight, we're bringing together the cast and crew of our 2019 production of The Wedding Singer. For those of you who may not be aware, The Wedding Singer was based on the 1998 hit Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore romantic comedy chronicling the journey of Robbie Hart, the wedding singer, as aforementioned in the title, who is left at the altar but then has a chance for love found with Julia Sullivan, a waitress who works at the banquet hall. If you haven't seen the film, definitely recommend it. If you didn't see our show, well, it was sold out. But yeah, thank you all for joining us and welcome everybody. Hi, wave hello. Awesome. And then I'll introduce myself first. My name is Joe Recchia. I go by he, him. And I was as well as being your host for this evening and a member of the MTP board, I was one of the co-producers for the show and the lighting designer. Who else would like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I am Kerry Hishon. I go by she, her pronouns. I was the director and co-producer of this show.
Hi, I'm Henry. My pronouns are he, him, and I played George in this production.
I am Jesslyn, pronouns are she, her, and I played Julia.
I'm Sean, I was Robbie, he, him.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Nielsen. My pronouns are she, her, and I played Linda.
Hi, I'm Steph Molloy, and I go by she, her. And I was in the ensemble, most notably as the Cyndi Lauper impersonator.
I'm Patrick Hoffer. I'm a he, him. I was in the ensemble as well, and I played a Ronald Reagan tribute artist.
Hi, I'm Hannah Robinet. My pronouns are she, her, and I was in the ensemble, and I also played the bride in the opening wedding scene.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Roberts, and I'm she, her as well. I was in the ensemble, and I was a mutant at Table 9, which was one of my favorites, and Nancy Reagan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Balina. My pronouns are she, her, and I played Holly.
Hello, I'm Ethan Butler, he, him, and I played everyone's favorite, the most handsome, dashing man, Glenn, the true hero.
I'm Andrew Rethazi. I was the music director. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them.
Hi, I'm Thaesha Buckley. My pronouns are she, her, and I was ensemble / a bride.
And I'm Jeremy Hewitson. I was the stage manager, and I go by he, him, or they, them, if that's easier for people to remember.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. We may have a couple of others join us as we progress, but I want to thank you all for joining us for tonight's episode of MTP Reunited and hope you're here to have a few laughs and some fond memories about this great production. So the first question I have is for members of the artistic team. How did you first become aware of The Wedding Singer, whether it was the film or the musical, or how did you become aware of this story?
So I actually found out about The Wedding Singer. Well, first I had watched the film because I love ridiculous movies. Adam Sandler is hysterical. And I found out about the musical actually while I was planning my own wedding back in 2013. I was scouring YouTube and I went through, the depths of YouTube one night when you just, you start watching one video and then 3 hours later you end up watching another one and you're like, how did I get here? And I saw a Tony Awards performance of The Wedding Singer starring Stephen Lynch. And I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh man, how cool would it be if this was my wedding? So I got more into it and I looked it up. I had to listen to the album and I fell in love with it. And I actually performed. I directed it at Original Kids Theatre Company with Lindsay Runhart, who was the choreographer of this production as well. And it was so much fun. We produced the show with 36 high school students, which was crazy. There were so many kids on the stage, and I thought later it would be nice to revisit it with people who are actually of the correct age to get married, because the vast majority of the kids in the production at Original Kids had never been to a wedding, let alone knew what happened at a wedding. A couple of them kids were like, I was a flower girl once, and I was like, oh my God. So that was a fun experience. And Joe was actually very influential in me proposing this show to MTP because he enjoyed it so much and thought it would be a great fit for MTP as well. So that's kind of how I ended up. That was my journey for The Wedding Singer.
So I have a confession. I've never actually seen the movie of The Wedding Singer, but only because I'm not a huge fan of Adam Sandler, and I would much rather keep my memories of Sean playing Robbie than replace it with Adam Sandler. So I'm okay with not having seen the movie to this point. I knew about the show because, I mean, everybody knew that the show existed. And I can't really remember exactly how I ended up getting involved in this. I think Kerry asked me if I would stage manage. And just hearing everybody who was already involved, like hearing who the people were, there was absolutely no way that I could say no, because I'm a huge fan of everybody who was working on this show at that point. And then, you know, just getting to work with an amazing cast, it was a dream show, just to be honest.
The Wedding Singer for me was one of those movies that was played on the bus to Stratford when my school went every single year, and every single ski trip, and you know, along with, I don't know, like She's All That, and you know, so for me it's just kind of a part of back there in my brain, even though before we did the show I didn't remember a lot of the details because it had been several years. So Kerry asked me to come on board. I don't remember exactly when, but I mean, it's such a fun show. I saw it at Original Kids. I was so excited to be able to do it. So yeah.
Great. So many fond memories of how this show came together with us as a team. For all of you who were in the cast, how familiar were you with either the film and or the musical version of The Wedding Singer prior to doing this production?
I hadn't seen the film either. I had only actually seen the stage version of the musical. And I think, Joe, we talked about this before, how we might have inadvertently met for the first time when at KWMP's production of Wedding Singer, because that's when I saw it. And I think you told me that you were working on that.
Yeah, I was the house manager for that production because it was at the University of Waterloo's theater that they had rented to do it.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. So that's how I got familiar with it. So I knew the musical version of the show pretty well, but not the movie at all. I did go and watch the movie after we had finished our production. So Jeremy, in case you're worried, Adam Sandler does not hold a candle to Sean.
Well, I don't know how to respond to that, really, because to be honest, there was probably one summer when I was probably 13 or 14 where I watched The Wedding Singer, Happy Gilmore, and Billy Madison in some sort of loop, probably, you know, each of those movies 3 to 4 times a week. So that is my kind of foray into it, and how I became familiar with it. Through the musical, it was just one of those it was one of those shows that you go, how did they make a musical of that? You know, there's a couple where you go like, yeah, I remember being in New York at one point and like Shrek was on, and I'm going like, who makes a musical of that? So it's one of those kind of shows where you go, and then it kind of piques your interest in terms of like why they would take that kind of show and make it into a musical. I mean, I think this is a natural fit just because of how musical the movie is, and how dependent it is on like a genre or a time period of the 80s. But I think, and then watching clips and there are a ton of clips online of all sorts of different people doing very different things for very different performances of The Wedding Singer. So I mean, it was an education to really kind of immerse myself in that, but it was you know, I was well familiar with the film before getting involved with the musical.
Yeah, I used to watch The Wedding Singer like so much when I was little because it was my older sister's favorite movie, and we used to rotate between like 4 VHSs when my parents were out, and it was like Parent Trap, Father of the Bride 1 and 2, and Wedding Singer, and that's like all we watched for like so long. So I watched the movie a lot of times, but I'd never seen the musical version before. But I loved the movie.
Well, for me, Wedding Singer is the only Adam Sandler movie that I don't hate. So that was a big step. And I grew up in the 80s. So, you know, the idea of Wedding Singer, the musical, was like, okay, it's set in the 80s. It's like, there was so many things. It was like going back to high school. So, and the fun part about having such a young cast was that most of you guys had an idea of what was going on. And there were some of us who were going, well, actually, that wasn't what it was really like. So, although the movie was fairly close as far as most things go. Hairstyles for certain.
I'm with Sean. I was a big Adam Sandler person. Are you guys really shocked? I had an older brother, so I watched all Adam Sandler movies, probably even before I really understood his humor. And I used to even listen to his actual albums that Adam Sandler came out with, like Lunch Ladyland and all the good songs. So I was super familiar with the movie, obviously, but I had never heard anything from the musical, I don't think, until the auditions. So I was just really excited because I love funny anything. So it was really, really exciting to hear that MTP was doing Wedding Singer.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, I'm also a big Adam Sandler fan, in case you didn't know. I too probably started watching it very young when I probably shouldn't have been. I think I did movie report on Billy Madison when I was in grade 2. I don't know what the teacher's response was.
Nice.
But yeah, so this was my first show with MTP, so I was super excited that it was The Wedding Singer. But yeah, I had no idea what to expect for the musical, but it was awesome. Yeah.
Having also grown up in the 80s, like Patrick, I actually saw it at the movie theater. Yeah, no VHSs for me. In the movie theater with popcorn. That cost less than $10. So yeah, that's how old I am. And the musical itself, I had never actually really looked at in any depth. And then as soon as I started looking at it in depth, I fell in love with it, of course. And this was my first production with MTP as well. And guess what else I fell in love with? All of you.
So similar to, well, a bunch of people, I saw Wedding Singer when I was more of a kid. So a lot of the jokes were lost on me, but I thought it was a fun movie. And then hadn't seen it again as an adult, but when MTP announced that they were doing the musical version, I was like, oh, that's an interesting, like, I didn't picture it as a musical. And then I checked out the soundtrack and like the songs are just so fun. So I was hooked on that right away. And then I rewatched the Adam Sandler movie again, and yeah.
Well, I suppose I'll go. I've seen pretty much every Adam Sandler movie he's ever made. And so I was very familiar with The Wedding Singer, but I didn't know that there was an actual stage musical. I didn't know that existed until I saw the audition call. And so I thought, well, that's neat. And here we are. So yeah, it was good. It was good. I liked it. I actually think the show is a bit better, to be honest. It explores certain characters way more than the movie ever did, because I forgot how little the movie explores certain characters. And I watched it the day after our final show, hungover. And then yeah, I forgot about how certain characters were just kind of non-existent.
I think I'm pretty much the same as Jesslyn. I've only really seen the movie in increments. I don't actually know if I've fully watched it from beginning to end. But just like even the poster and the announcement of MTP doing the musical just caught my eye. Like it was so bright and colorful. And I think it was the Tonys. They performed the opening number. Yeah, I watched that like 100 times and decided it would probably be fun to be a part of it.
I'm with all of the Adam Sandler fans in this group. Definitely a big fan for sure. And I absolutely love his sense of humor. And so Wedding Singer was a big 10 out of 10 for me when I saw it way back in the day. And then seeing it, knowing and figuring out that it became a musical when I saw the MTP's sort of announcement. That was news to me that it was actually a production. So I was very excited to audition because I really wanted to be a part of something fun and uplifting and funny. And that's exactly what this was. Oh my gosh, for sure.
Wonderful. That's awesome. So it feels like we've got quite a split between the huge Adam Sandler fans and some people who this is one. I'm also in the camp of, I'm not a huge Adam Sandler fan, but I love this particular movie because it's sort of different than the traditional Adam Sandler roles that he typically plays. So it sounds like for a lot of people that the existence of the film version was where you came to know that Wedding Singer existed and what drew you to the appeal of being a part of this production with that movie being brought to the stage. So how did it feel once you were in the show and realizing that you had to help bring sort of this like super iconic film that maybe had been a part of your lives or was at least a part of so many people's lives on stage? Was that scary? Was that putting pressure on it? Was that exhilarating? How did that feel like bringing those iconic moments to the stage?
Well, I think for me, the nice thing was there was something to fall back on, but it wasn't something that we just wanted to follow the movie note for note, or didn't want to just make all of the same decisions that the movie made in terms of finding humor. We tried to find humor in different avenues and different areas. The character, I think, like from a character perspective, you're looking at, I think you're kind of trying to strip away and saying like, well, what does, like for myself, what does Robbie really want? And I mean, that's something that's kind of universal between the stage show and the movie. But the idea being, you wanted to play to certain moments that I think the audience would expect, but then also give them some different interpretations of how that character's, because in a lot of ways, you know, you're trying to do something different, but you're also trying to kind of pay respect and homage to the film that made it happen.
I mean, you guys are off to a great start. I mean, Donatella showed up, so right away you gotta be psyched, right, Scott? Whatever. You found true love. Whoopity-doo!
Sean and I kind of talked about this too, is like, it's a lot of pressure, like Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, and neither of us wanted to just do an impersonation of those two, but we kind of talked about what made them in the movie so great, and it was kind of like their chemistry and their rapport and like their friendship. And I've known Sean for like 10 years now, so we were like,
it's been a long time.
Like, let's find that like with us as these characters and not try and be Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. So that was fun.
Like a judge upheld my appeal.
Like a fur trapper clubbing a seal. Oh, Linda, you make me feel. Don't be afraid of a little harmony here. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Like because the movie really hinges on that relationship. So it was easy in a lot of ways with Jess, because it was like, okay, I know who you are. It's not like there's no real awkwardness between the two of us of like, oh, getting to know each other. It's like, okay, well, we've done a lot of theater together, so it's, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to accomplish the goal of having these two characters fall in love and have the audience believe that these two characters fall in love?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it really does hinge on those characters and those relationships, because Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore kept being reunited for film after film because of the chemistry that they had together. And I mean, for all you Adam Sandler fans, I mean, I would argue that nothing beats the chemistry that they have in that first film, and they try to recapture that in some of the other films that they put them together in, but it doesn't have quite the same charm. Absolutely.
Apparently you haven't seen Blended. Oh.
I almost had the opposite situation, because of anyone here, I had the least sort of engagement with the film material, I think, because the music other than the 2 or 3 songs that they ported from the movie, the music was all very was all original. So I just kind of like wanted to sort of, yes, the spirit of the movie had to be there for sure, but like for me, it was almost a non-issue in a sense.
Or would you simply turn and walk away if I hold you? Will you tell me I should go? Do I chance it, or would it just be better not to know?
I thought there was, for me, I mean, this was my first production ever. So I didn't really know how a lot of things went, but for the movie version and the kind of what went on in the movie, there were so many things that this cast did kind of just because they thought it was funny. Thinking Jacob and Sean with the shame.
You suck! You suck, Sam! It's shame!
And when Cheyenne tags Sean with the garbage bag from the balcony, those little things were so funny, and most of them were original. I don't know if the garbage bag was in the original script, but that was hilarious, man. And that whole interaction, there was all kinds of just little things that were going on that the cast just kind of put together because they thought it was funny. And for me, those are the funniest parts of the whole show. So.
Okay.
So you're back in the dumpster.
I was gonna say that too. I feel like Kerry, you always encouraged us to be silly, and we were allowed to be silly, you know, and I think that really added, even just in the background here and there, just small things like that came out naturally, because we were just a really silly cast, and we all just like, I think Lo, you said it. I think you said like we're all in love. Like we were all in love, and we were all just really silly.
Oh, it's you don't get that a lot with a lot of shows, that you genuinely are sad to say goodbye. And I'm sure we'll get to this again as we go through this later, but we were like, rehearsals were a hoot. Like I think I'd be brought to tears from laughing multiple times just from watching everybody. It was awesome.
The plastic bride from the top of the wedding cake.
It looks just like Linda, only much smaller.
It was awesome because, yes, there were those funny moments in the movie, but like someone mentioned earlier, the stage show was able to develop these characters in a way that the movie didn't, and we were able to make it funny, but on our own. And to me, it was just, there were some parts that were priceless.
I completely agree with all of you guys. I think our chemistry in particular made it lovable. And although we did pay respect to the original movie, and you know, we all tried our best to do that, it just came together in a way that if one person was different in this cast, it would have changed everything. Like every single last one of us, last one of you for sure, added something to this musical that just made it unforgettable. So my question is, I'm taking over. What are we doing next with this same crew? Because I'm ready.
Equal.
What other Adam Sandler movies have become musicals?
Which are right blended the musical. It already has songs in it, okay? Terry Crews sings a bunch. I'm telling you, it's going to be a hit.
Henry, get on it. You compose. So I'm hearing lots of comments about just how close this cast and crew became. And having been a part of like so many shows in my experience, and as someone said, it's not something that happens all the time. What was it about this particular show or this particular group of people that brought everyone so close together, do you think?
Kerry.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. 100%. For me, at least. That's
very sweet of you to say. Thank you.
Kerry was the linchpin, like the anchor of the show, and she was able to bring everyone together. She brought the very best out of everyone from like any little moment. And I think where you're talking about little moments that we found and discovered, the only reason we were able to do those and find those little moments was because Kerry invested the time in them. And I think everyone put the time in to know their blocking, know their choreo, know their songs, so that rehearsals weren't so much a process of like going through and trying to, you know, learn the show in a lot of ways. A lot of people just took it very, like as silly as it was, people took it very seriously so that you could find those really silly moments. And it's a testament to Kerry for pulling everyone together and allowing them to find those little moments, because there were so many, and you know, if you watch the video, you can watch anyone in the chorus throughout any number, and you can just follow that character's path and that character's arc in every scene. It's ridiculous. And it was fun to play off because you'd find yourself kind of confronted with the same person at certain moments, and little things would just kind of develop naturally and be very organic. And I think that's what made it so, you know, it's a testament to Kerry to pull all those elements, all those various elements together and really kind of create a spider web on which the whole show could rest.
I literally remember during the run, certain numbers or certain scenes would be coming up on stage, and I'd run very quietly to the back and watch it from the screen and just be like silently laughing to myself every single night.
Yeah, I got to watch the show from the booth every single performance, and I could have watched it for years. Like I could have kept doing that for years because it was just so good. And also just wanted to build on praising Kerry. Kerry has a way of creating an environment where she brings people together, and she brings the best out of people in like every experience that I've had working with Kerry. That's what it's been like. And she just created this environment where everybody just respects each other and brings the best out of each other, and it creates a really good product. And that's why we ended up with such a good show.
Thank you. P.S. I did not pay anyone to say this, so thank you so much for all these lovely things you're saying. I think for me with theater, I want to do a show that's fun. I want to have fun. And the thing is, with community theater in particular, everyone is busy. Everyone has a life outside of the theater. So I want to bring together a group of people who are nice. I want to work with people who are talented. I want to work with people who are hardworking, but also I just want everyone to have fun. You guys could be spending your time doing anything else. You're missing out on time with your family, you're missing out on time with your friends, you're taking time off work. So as a director, I want to respect what you're doing, respect your time and your talents, and make sure that you're having a wonderful time. And I feel that if the actors and the crew and the artistic staff, if we're all having a good time, if we're all bringing that joy together, then we're going to bring that joy to the audience. And it's just going to be, we're just growing the joy and the happiness and the silliness.
You'll have to kiss your rats and watch as 80 dance. But remember this, it could be 10 times worse, at least it's got your bliss.
Like other people are saying, I also had such a wonderful time in rehearsals. I look forward to it every day, and seeing what people brought and making it, you all made it so special because you're all so wonderful and talented. And I think it was Sean who was saying, you know, you have the movie as your source material, but we're not trying to just play the movie on the stage. You could just rent the movie. It's just, I don't know, I think it's probably on Netflix. But you want to take the talents of these particular people and take their moments. And I love when actors bring things, unique things and special things to the stage, because why would I not want to use that? I'd be silly not to. It's the more ownership that the entire group has, the more it becomes everyone's show. And like I said, it just makes the joy multiply. So if I'm going to do a show, I want it to be fun. I want everyone to have a good time, and I think we succeeded.
I was going to also shout out Kerry as well, because she's so uniquely herself and so genuine that during the rehearsal process, you didn't feel like you were being over the top silly, because she was just like that. She was already that in a beautiful way right from the start. So you never felt like you were embarrassing yourself or doing anything out of your comfort zone, because Kerry's there to just be like, that was awesome. And it's just like, it's the best feeling. And to speak to the chemistry of the whole entire ensemble, I remember like throughout even the wedding and everything else, like I'd walk up to somebody and it would be like, okay, so right here, like I think it was Claire, it's like, so I'm fighting with this person because I'm going to be dancing with this person, so if you can walk up to me and like talk to me about this, like there was storylines going on that weren't in the script that people were so dedicated to that I couldn't wait to go and participate in these stories because they were so cool, and it was consistent every night, but maybe a little bit of like dialogue that changed, and it always made me laugh, and it was just incredible.
Please, no!
I said hold it!
That also makes it so real though, too. Like, it's not just, oh, I'm standing here because Kerry told me to stand here. I loved watching the interactions between everyone. It made it that much more fun. And actually, my parents came and saw the show, my aunt and uncle, and my aunt said, you know, I could see different people interacting with each other, and I was focusing on so many things. There's so many things to watch. I want to see it again, but I can't because it's sold out. And I was like, yay.
Awesome, wonderful. We actually have had 2 more people join us just now, and I'd love to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
I'm Kate. My pronouns are she, her. I was in the ensemble of Wedding Singer, and I also costume designed the show.
I'm Mary Jane Walzak, and I was Grandma Rosie. And I'm her.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. We were just talking, you missed out on the Love Fest. We were just talking about how close this cast and crew was, more so than a lot of other shows have been. And a lot of that's been attributed to Kerry and her fun directing style and her leadership.
And her tights.
The tights. Definitely the tights. Without
Your
a shadow
80s
of a doubt.
pants.
That just set the scene every week in practice. And yes, absolutely Love Fest for Kerry, but I wanted to say, because this was the first time that I ever worked with any of you, and I just wanted to say that one of the reasons I think the chemistry was so wonderful between the cast is because everybody, there wasn't a single person that I can think of, put everything into it. We didn't just practice on the days that you guys scheduled practices. We met at Steph's house one day to do some dancing. We connected with each other outside of the formal practices so that we were all doing our best to put on the best show possible. And everybody was so welcoming and so open that I never once felt like an outsider, which is really difficult to not feel like when you're joining a group of people who have all worked together before. So everybody was so welcoming, accommodating, wanted to help, and that really increased the chemistry between us all, because by the end of it all, we really, truly all did like each other, which doesn't happen all the time in theater.
I really think that this cast and crew and show, since it was my first, I've done 2 more since. I've actually joined the board of MTP as well, so I think you can say that I'm hooked on theater. But I think the cast and crew of this show really wrecked me for theater, because this is amazing. This group of people who gave everything every night. I've never seen a group of people give more, and just for the simple purpose of making the show better. Just that. There was no egos. There was no, you're just in the ensemble. There was none of that. And it was all just for the better part of the show. It was amazing. It's nothing like this has ever happened to me. I'm getting choked up here.
I really enjoyed Kerry. Kerry, it was the first time I really ever worked with you outside of the Three Musketeers, I think. And it was a great experience. You're right, Patrick. It was a very warm and loving show, a very accepting place. And I think that came from everybody in the cast and from Kerry at the top of it. It was lovely.
I think MJ could probably also speak to this as someone who's done a lot of shows. I've done a lot of shows. I've done a lot of shows with MTP. I was not a newcomer to this production, but every so often you get those little gems that I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't sit here and tell you like what it was, but every so often you get those shows where the cast just like meshes well, the crew works well together, like everyone's just so kind and warm and welcoming, and it's just an amazing experience. And there's been shows where I've been a lead role in, had an amazing part, and it wasn't as great of an experience as being ensemble in this show was. And you can't really put your finger on what it is, but this was definitely like, as someone who's done MTP for almost 10 years now, there's just those little gems kind of throughout that are as magical as this show was. you know, even people who've done theater for a really long time, it was a very special experience for sure.
And building on that and diving a bit more into the process of this show, what were some of your favorite parts of the rehearsal process for this show?
I personally really liked all of the times that we took it to the side and worked on like any sort of dance. As somebody with 2 left feet, it took almost the entire cast to teach me most of the choreography. And it was really, really fun. So I enjoyed that the most, I think.
When we first learned the choreography for Single, all of the guys were just so into it that we were all like, okay, we have to wait until this is ready before we show any of the women in the cast, and we want them all to see it at once. And you'll keep staying single with your smarts if you are single. Trust me, this is where the good times really start.
Well, Single was, I think, one of the most ridiculous numbers. And to piggyback on that, my wife was about 8 months pregnant at the time that the show went up. And she sat front row. During Single, JP, who's a doctor, an anesthesiologist, very familiar with pregnant women, Cass had some cramping kind of Braxton Hicks fake contractions during the show, and she recalls him doing the choreography perfectly, but staring at her the whole time, because I think in his head, after he came off, he told me he was wondering whether he was going to have to deliver a baby on stage. So that was kind of one of my favorite memories after, because that just kind of is a confluence of everything, right? Like it's like Lindsay's choreography it's just fun. It's just always fun to do. And even when it's hard, it's like, okay, but I'm gonna challenge myself, and I'm gonna master this. And that was a big part of it. But then it was like the music, the song, how like that song is probably the epitome of how like ridiculous and silly the show can get to a moment. But it also still has heart in it, and it's a very kind of important moment.
Though at times I might want someone to hold me tight.
Yeah, like, it's just the rehearsal process was just so much fun, and I can't believe that we got such a great group of people together. And honestly, without this group of people, like, I don't think I could have lasted through the rehearsal process and through the show itself. There's no way.
I remember, Brittany, what song was it that you sang where all the men lined up?
Right in front of your eyes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every night backstage, I got to watch that. And it was a great number. I loved watching you do that, Joe. I loved seeing the men all coming up towards you and dancing their little hearts out. They were great. That's why it's right in front of your eyes. You might have a sleeping resort to hopes that can be your dream, that are the lifestyle of the rich and famous, really all they see.
Thank you. That's so sweet. At the time when I was doing that number and all the other numbers, when I'm jumping up on that big Rubik's Cube block and running up the stairs, I was actually sneaky pregnant with my now son, James. And nobody knew the whole time, struggling through the first trimester of pregnancy and quite ill in the background. It holds a special place in my heart, definitely, this show, for that reason. I know Kerry was also sneaky pregnant. So this show is pretty cool for that reason too. But yeah, just a lot of support and laughs. I felt supported, even though I wasn't able to tell people even what I was going through. I still felt like I could get through it because of this cast. So lots of good things to say.
I give you so much props, Brittany, because not only were you sneaky pregnant, you were sneaky pregnant in a corset.
Saturday night in the city.
the talent in the music part of things, because like vocally there was just so much talent. And Andrew, you just got us to sing with such energy too. And I feel like we were warming up before the shows, and I've never been in a show with the vocals and the energy, like we were doing the choreography, and you know, it was fantastic. And Ethan, I remember too, like, you know, singing wasn't like your strong suit, and you just like worked so hard, man. You worked so hard, and like it was so awesome, and you did amazing. Like, yeah. So there's just so much great work, and yeah, a lot of musical talent in the cast itself, right? And that was really neat to see everybody working together and using their skills as musicians to help each other out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually I was a bundle of nerves, I think, for how long was it run? And plus the rehearsal process. So essentially since we started, because I'd never really done musicals before Hello Dolly, which is my first one, which was also around that same time. So that was a really nerve-wracking experience for me because I don't read music. And so that was also another stressful part of it. But everyone in the cast and behind the scenes helped me out a lot. Like Andrew Torst helped me, did a lot of work with me. And then I think he probably was hating me by the end, but I think it was worth it. But and same with JP. Like JP helped me a lot just to calm me down, just and to work with me when Andrew was, because I'm not the only person in the show, despite how I viewed the show. And so sometimes Andrew was busy, and so like JP would work with me behind the scenes and just calm me down and just take me through things if I had any questions. And so by the end of it, after I came off my final performance, I remember when I finished my number, I came off and like JP and I just hugged.
Yes, anybody watching this, if you have a chance to cast JP, you should.
Yes.
Because the closest equivalent to JP I can think of is like a literal magic lamp with an actual genie inside of it that will grant you actual wishes.
It's a masculating holding a purse, and it doesn't.
JP moved every set piece, like was like practicing musical numbers with us, photographing, taping.
He was yelling at audience members at that one point when there's some rude people. Like, it was awesome. JP was doing it all.
No, JP was like the heart and soul of the show in a lot of ways, because I think just his dedication to everything rubs off on people. And in a lot of ways, he's almost kind of like a person that you don't want to disappoint JP. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to not know your choreography because you don't want to go in there and have JP kind of like, you know, you want to impress JP. You want to do your best for JP.
He was a wonderful surprise addition to the cast. When we first did the casting for the show, we had such a wonderful cast assembled, but it's a thing in theater where you tend to always be lacking men. And we were like, we need some more men. And our wonderful choreographer, Lindsay, who was choreographing Beauty and the Beast at the time, was able to recruit a few more gentlemen to join our group. And JP was one of them. And he was, I'd never met him before, wonderful person to join the cast. So yes, all this wonderful things that he did, because he's a musician, and he is a great dancer, and he is a photographer and a lovely person, and also a doctor on top of that. So I actually asked him one day, I was like, is there anything you can't or don't do?
He's like putting up one of those photography umbrella things to take our picture backstage, and he's like moving that away. People are like, is there anything you can't do, JP? Sports. And then he just like walks away.
So if you could resurrect this show for one night only, what would be the one part of the show that you would love to perform again? And what would be the one part of the show that you weren't in, but you would kill to see one more time?
Yeah, Single for sure. I'd want to see Single again.
For me, it was the Freaks at Table 9. There was something about Jaden and his frickin' mustache and his like monkey walk that he would do with like his arms, like tears every single time I would watch that. It was so good.
Loves a scam, a sergeant slaughter, bloody slam. Loves a watching bleed. Loves the only thing
I remember that song's called Casualty of Love. And I remember talking to all the party guests. I love that you all call yourselves mutants, about creating your characters. One note I remember during the tech rehearsal that I gave to Paige was that she was too beautiful in that scene. I asked her, I was like, can you make yourself ugly? And she like gave herself a unibrow and was still gorgeous. So I love that each of the party guests had a unique, let's say, quirk about them that Sean got to interact with. I feel like you looked like you were having a lot of fun interacting. And then Thaesha got to punch you out, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
I was on stage for that whole scene, kind of off to the side, just watching what was going on. It was the toughest thing in my life to stand there and not crack up because I was supposed to be angry. But oh my God, the mutants were killing me.
Honestly, like it was hard to be a mutant and not crack up the whole time. It was so fun to do that.
I totally love that. I just want to see if you guys can see this picture.
I think I know what picture that is.
Because it's beautiful. She looks like a blow-up doll.
One of my favorite moments every night was Grandma's letter. And I would only recreate that and resurrect that with a full audience like we had every night, because for me the joy in that was, I mean, it's a funny song and Mary Jane, you delivered it brilliantly, but for me the joy was the stages of discovery of the audience as they put two and two together. What is going to rhyme with this? And then and I think it was, I can't remember who it was. It was someone we knew. Was it Dale?
I think it was Dale.
It was totally Dale, because I know exactly where you're going with this.
Sure as waves will wash the shore, and just the laughter at right there.
That Linda is a skanky
It was hilarious because, yes, I remember Dale telling us this, and it was like the recognition of the audience, because you got some people who were like, oh, is this what they're gonna, oh no, they're not gonna, no. Oh, she said it, oh my God, that's amazing. and me watching the audience get it in succession was just hysterical.
It was a fun song to do every night. I gotta say, I love doing that song. And there was only the one night that somebody yelled out the lyrics before I got to them. But I got to admit, I love the last part too, where I got to read my letter to my loving husband. That was spectacular. I love that part.
And now that it's been 50 years, I still have you to dry my tears and keep me from all fears and harm. Here's to 50 more years in your arms.
My favorite moment of the show was Grow Old With You. And it was because there was such a buildup in the whole show to that moment of standing behind the curtain, ready to go out and play and sing, and getting that moment with Jess and really trying to make that moment work. And I feel like because the whole show really leads up to that, and it's the most kind of hard on your sleeve, most kind of bare showing of feelings and love and everything like that. I think that moment is really kind of, it'll always be special to me, but it's that moment of standing behind the curtain right before it happened and knowing everything that has happened up to that point in the show, leading kind of to that moment.
Get your medicine when your tummy aches. Build you a fire if the furnace breaks. Oh, it could be so nice growing old with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that moment too. Yeah, it was just so heartfelt and nice and sappy. So.
Was that the moment where I got kicked in the face?
No problem, baby.
Ah, of course. So I just wanted to confirm. That's one of my favorites as well. But another one of my favorite, other than my own song and the playing drunk scene where me and my homies came out, and apparently beating up Sean was a real fun part of the show because I did it, Thaesha did it. It just happened a couple times throughout the show. We had a hoot. But my other favorite part was in the background, right at the end of the show, where I jump into Lo's arms like a little monkey. And I don't know how many people even saw it, but it was just really fun. The anticipation, the nerves. We were up on like the balcony. I was like, I'm going, I'm leaping, I'm here.
It's funny that you mentioned that because at least every show that we did that, there would be someone in the audience go like this and point up at us, which was really funny. But thank you, Kerry, for letting us do that. But that was a perfect description because you literally, like, you ended up on my hip like a little monkey.
I love that moment. That is not in the script. It's something actually that we came up with in the original kids production because I love it when the whole cast gets to come on for the final song, and it's just a little silly moment. For whoever wasn't able to see the show, everyone's singing a reprise of "It's Your Wedding Day" at Robbie and Julia's wedding. All the impersonators and all the party guests and all the waitresses and everyone has come back, but Linda and Glenn, the two ex-fiancés and stuff, they just vanished. So I had them come back and give everyone the evil eye, and then they hook up in a bathroom later on or something like that. And yeah, it was a little fun moment because I want to make sure everybody has their last moment on stage together because, that's fun.
One moment I really liked when we were talking about JP, it was reminding me of it, is in like Pop, when we were like, I would absolutely recreate this for the audience reaction. And JP and I were at a table at the very front, and like from where I was to here was an audience member. We were all in a frozen tableau as Glenn was proposing to Julia. And then when she says yes, we all went like, he totally popped. But JP would turn and like literally like right in someone's face at full volume, like he totally, and like the whole like 3 or 4 people that were sitting there would jump out of their seats because he just was singing like right in their faces. It was amazing. It was one of my favorite little moments of just like making the whole front row jump with his voice.
What do you say?
Yes!
Can I also add another JP moment that was amazing? I was wearing this like 80s style beaded choker that during my number that I did when I lap danced on Sean, it broke everywhere. And then JP then just walks out on stage with a broom and made it like as part of the scene and just cleaned it all up with this giant broom. Amazing.
I'd say all of those types of moments in the show, like there were a few of them that happened through the run of the show where something, for whatever reason, would get left on stage or something would break, and everyone would just figure out a way to fix it. It was like my job was so not stressful on this show. It was great.
Well, that leads me well into my next topic. So we've talked about some of our favorite moments on the show. What would be some of the most challenging moments of the show, whether it was a moment in rehearsal or a process thing or a particular part of the show that was really hard for you or something that went horribly wrong one night?
I'm just going to jump in and say the bouquet toss. That was a nightmare. It was like, we got it and we nailed it, but like I've never had to choreograph a bouquet toss like that, like perfectly, and it was like so risky. We did it, but like that was like, why was that the hardest part? But that was the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that was a hard
Did it
part for
pass-
sure.
Like, how many hands did that bouquet pass through? And then I just had to hope that it was like in front of, like, no, it was behind me when I reached back, and I was just like, please be there, please be there.
I think it hit all of us. I think that was the point. I think it was supposed to go into everybody's hands before it magically went into yours, which it's a lot easier when it's random, but very choreographed.
I think we reran it before every performance to make sure that we had it like in our system.
It was like a fight call.
It was so cute in the end, though. It was adorable.
It was really cute.
Once it was all gotten, it was really cute in the end.
I'm gonna have to go with drunken audience members. But the best part about that was, and Sean, I tell people that don't even know the show, don't know you, barely know me about this. The way Sean handled that was, people said, oh, you got some people I know who were at that show said, oh, you got somebody to interact with the audience. Like, yeah, sure did. Yeah. We're doing that every night. The way Sean handled it was so perfect. It was awesome.
Well, I can say from the outside perspective, because I was in the lobby with Kerry watching the show, because being producers for a sold out show is great, except for the fact that you never actually get to sit inside and see the damn thing. So we would always literally pull up a chair outside in the lobby and watch it on the video monitors. And as the scene was progressing, it was the Casualty of Love scene. I don't know if we'd actually gotten to the song yet, but it was that scene prior where Sean is very drunk emceeing the wedding, and people who had been a little, I think, noisy through most of the performance up to this point.
Oh, it was awful. All the way through. They were just like, just talking back and just like.
And then finally decided that they had to use the washroom and couldn't wait anymore. And because of the McManus only having one exit door on audience left, and they were closer to audience right, they thought their best decision was to stand up and walk across the stage to leave, but they couldn't do so discreetly. What they had to do was jump up and announce, "I'm so sorry," and start laughing and giggling about the fact that they were interrupting the show, and literally walk across. I don't even think they made a straight line in front of the audience. I feel like they walked through the scene.
They directly talked to Sean.
Yeah, there was like a moment, Sean had at your line, it was like you were asking questions or something, like, what do you say to blah, blah, blah? And then she just stood up and said, what do you say to somebody who has to go to the bathroom? Sean, what did you say?
I told her she can just get the hell out of here. And I pointed at the door.
And we were like, I think I was standing with Claire, and we were just like ready to start, the song was starting, and I was like scraping my jaw up off the floor. Like, it was unbelievable.
You know what? It was one of those things that it was one of those moments that just kind of like popped up, and you had to roll with it, you know? And that's the best part about live theater, is when something goes askew, you know, like when the train, it doesn't go off the tracks, but like it slips one wheel off the track as it's like moving, and then everyone has to do something to kind of like pull it back onto the track. So that was, you know, that was a fun moment. And, you know, we had other audience members come backstage randomly trying to find bathrooms, you know, and you just have to roll with it.
Well, we were all like in the lobby waiting to go on for a set change. And so they walked, because we were like, what just happened? And they walked by, like basically all the ensemble members who weren't in Casualty of Love were waiting in the lobby to do the set change. And that's when JP said, like, as they walked by, they said something like, oh my God, wasn't that so funny? And JP was like, no, that wasn't funny. That was awful, or something like that, like immediately. And then we immediately went on to do a set change. But I remember thinking, like, sometimes when something like that happens, you need to go backstage and be like, what the hell just happened? And then compose yourself and go back on. But I remember, like, we were all recognizing, like, Sean doesn't go off stage for the next like 20 minutes. Like, you were just
that was the runaround from like, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he's not gonna have
gauntlet.
that moment to be like, what the hell? Like, there was such a long time before you, like, both you and Jesslyn were able to go off stage and be like, what just happened? Yeah, it was wild.
Right, because the set change that you were doing was bringing the dumpster on, which just immediately transitions out of that. And then don't we leave the dumpster scene and go immediately into the bar mitzvah scene? Like, there's no break there at all.
That's right. And then the only moment, so it was after the bar mitzvah scene, there's like a 30-second, we go off, and there's we had a quick change and had to go back on for the like shopping for your wedding gifts. So it was like we didn't even have time to be like, what the hell was that? It was just like, all right, that happened. Go.
And very conveniently, those of us in the back were already supposed to be acting like we were watching a train wreck, so it dovetailed.
Well, it's funny because I guess the wedding singer pulled all sorts of different personalities out into the audience, which was pretty great for a lot of reasons, but maybe not that one in particular.
That's one thing I've noticed about doing shows like Wedding Singer is that, like, because MTP's done a few shows and I've been in other shows that pull a crowd that isn't just a theater crowd because people want to see Wedding Singer because the movie. And I remember like when I did Rocky Horror, like it was that same kind of idea. And even when MTP did Jesus Christ Superstar, we had that similar kind of idea of like, it's a show that brings out non-theater people, which can be really awesome and really magical. And then you get people who've never been to the theater before and don't quite know the etiquette, but it is really like a really cool experience to get to show a piece of theater like this to people who don't normally watch musicals.
So while we're on the subject of challenges, I want to say, first of all, a shout out to Kate leading the team that helped costume this show beautifully. And I want to talk a little bit about the costumes. But before we talk about the costumes and maybe some of our favorite costumes from the show, what were some of the challenges with the costumes, or especially some of the massive quick changes that happened in this show?
Carrie, I was like laughing earlier when you were talking about the unibrow. It took her like that was a quick change, and I remember being backstage really quickly from like waitress to mutant, and she was just like penciling on that unibrow so quickly.
I think that unibrow grew bigger every night because it just got like sloppier and faster. Like I swear it went from like a normal size unibrow to like half of her forehead.
Which worked for the character. And I also remember particularly for the Casualty of Love, I don't remember when this happened because this was a backstage thing, I think, but Jaden's shirt got ripped. And he came on for Casualty of Love with like the top button buttoned and then the middle and bottom ones, but he had this big gaping opening in his shirt. And I was just like, okay, it works, it's fine. I just felt so bad too, because I don't even know how his shirt got ripped, but he just went with it. So that was great.
I know I had a couple crazy quick changes. I think the one was like, I forget what scene. Oh, geez, there was one like right in the middle of a song with Pop the Question where I had to throw on that engagement dress. And then right into Saturday Night in the City, I was like wrapping fishnet tights around my head.
Quick changes with fishnets is brutal. Like that was the worst.
I remember like I had Kate like with one arm and Thaesha with the other, and I was just like running into them and hoping that I had clothes on for that scene. And then I also had the full wedding dress quick change for the final number. And I think it was dress rehearsal that didn't get zipped up. So I was doing the whole final number with like my whole back open.
I remember that, and you like lean back into me and you're like, my dress is falling down. And I like put my hand behind and like hold it. Like
yeah, that never happened for a show though, so
no.
That was good.
The wedding dresses.
Yeah.
That was the wedding dresses were the bane of my existence. Like first of all, like finding a wedding dress, especially like a period wedding dress for a show, one dress is difficult. Like that's hard. But we needed like a dozen dresses, like 3 or 4 of which went on people. And then we had a bunch that ended up having to be props too. The wedding dresses were the hardest part for sure of the costuming in general. And I think what we had a lot of the difficulties.
Yes. The train. And MJ, you worked so hard on that damn train. And like the dress rehearsal maybe, the one night, I think the train just completely fell and I had to like, I don't know, pick up the dress and just do the best.
Yeah, weren't you actually picked up?
Oh yeah.
So, a train and being picked up.
Yeah, not only dresses, but like doing full choreography in an 80s
In the
dress.
yeah.
Like, it's a disaster.
For me, personally, it was that corset. I had a quick change into the corset, and the corset had individual clasps all the way up in the back. And so I had to get help from the crew. And there was always that like sweat dripping down my forehead being like, please God, get this done up.
I know for me, I didn't have any quick changes. Luckily, I kind of had a couple of fun outfits. Like my outfit in the opening was something I think it wasn't really made. It was more just like there was a pile of clothes on the ground. And Tate said, just grab something. And I was like, okay. And so I grabbed this like vibrant pink women's blouse. I think these giant pants and like a curly wig. and I just tossed it on because I had to be a different character in the opening. So that was a lot of fun because my own mother, I think, or someone who I brought to the show didn't know it was me at the opening until I told them after the show was over. So that was always fun. And also because my hair, I had it slicked back in the way it was, but my hair doesn't go that way because I have very basic bitch straight hair here. And so like, I think I used half a thing of gel and like 3 cans of hairspray. So that there was just a cloud in the men's dressing room of just where I sat because it was just half of hairspray.
I have fond memories about those gigantic white boots that I had. I don't know what those were, but I'm pretty sure they belonged to a drag queen.
Those boots were from Original Kids. They were from our production of Rent, and they were worn by Angel.
I remember because I costumed that show as well, and I was like, I remember like using the same ones for like really the only shows I've ever really costumed. But like what Ethan was saying, my like I have very little experience with costume design. I don't really sew. Like this was just kind of like what I remember when I think it was Joe asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was kind of like, you know, I can't sew, like, you know that, right? I was like, I'm happy to help and throw things together, but like I don't really know what I'm doing. But my kind of motto for the show was, I was like, wow, like that's awful, it's perfect. Like literally was everything. I was like, this is the ugliest dress I've ever seen, let's go. Like everything was atrocious, like just big and puffy and colorful, and there was no like color scheme or fanciness to it. It was just like 80s vomit, like all over everything. And I remember going to like a t-shirt shop to get the shirts, like the I'm with Stupid shirts made. And I remember when I was getting them done, usually when they put like a graphic on a shirt, I just went to one of those places at the mall. They were like, oh, you want like right across the chest? And I was like, no, it has to be higher. And they're like, why? Like, that's not what you want. And I was like, no, like we're gonna crop it really, really short, so it has to be like up here because we're gonna cut it like right here. And that was one of my favorite things to do, is to like go into the mall and get those shirts made up.
I still have that shirt.
Other people's favorite costumes from the show, whether it was one that you wore or something that someone else wore.
I feel like a lot of my costumes were like Jesslyn's clothes or Carrie's clothes. Like I wore Carrie's crinoline from her actual wedding as my Cyndi Lauper skirt. And then most of my costume for Saturday night, I think it was Jesslyn's like vest and dress. So that was kind of fun.
Can we just talk about Henry's costume? Let's just say that one.
I was about to say I have a particular attachment to Henry's wig because I styled it myself during a dance rehearsal. So I was at rehearsal. I wasn't called to rehearsal. Like, am I called? Does the director call to rehearsal? I don't know, but I was there anyway. And I had a couple wigs actually that I think I wanted Henry to try on, but the red one just worked and it was massive. And then we braided it and added ribbons and beads and feathers, and it was, I don't even know when MTP is ever going to use it ever again, but we still have it, and I consider it possibly one of my greatest masterpieces.
Maybe when we do Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, it will see the light of day again.
I am a person who sweats a lot, so I apologize to the future user of this wig. I did pull a box of Wedding Singer memorabilia out of my basement for this meeting, and I found that I took like George's bracelets with me and a bunch of bands. I've got the black nail polish I use and stuff in there too. It's just all in there.
I have some good photos of the origins of the Baconator story, if anyone.
What is the Baconator story for our audiences out there?
We took like awkward prom photos.
Yeah. And
Of like
just,
standing behind.
it's very unsettling, like Sean's face. And we thought he looked like someone who like murdered his wife potentially. So then we made like a Netflix documentary cover.
Yeah, what happened was at some point, I think, Sean, you mentioned something about Boca Raton, or someone did. And then I just like, for some reason, I don't
That's
know why I
right.
said this. I said, if, like, you can't spell Boca Raton without Baconator because they're anagrams. And I thought that was just a random throwaway joke that I don't know why I made. And then it went.
Yeah, and then he became the Baconator killer.
I think we had like a cast group chat when the point of it, I think, was to organize gifts for the creative team, and then it just turned into like the birth of the Baconator killer. And I think the photo for the group chat is like Sean's murder face.
But then it actually turned into something really nice, which was after the show, going for lunch at Wendy's and getting Baconators together as like a nice thing to do together afterwards. Like we all just like would meet up for lunch and would go to Wendy's and get Baconators. Like it was really sweet.
We had like a streak going of almost like once a month meeting up. That really was only interrupted by COVID. Like we probably would have still been doing that because it was just a fun group of people to touch base with, and you know, you grab lunch somewhere. Often it was Wendy's, and then it would be like a discussion of like, oh, what shows are you doing now, and or you do want to do this one, you know, audition for that, blah blah blah. And it just became kind of, we have a group chat that really COVID has killed, I would say, but just because we can't see each other now. But for the most part, like, and you know, to echo what Patrick said, like that doesn't happen. You know, like you've been spoiled because this group of people continues to like stay in touch, and that's so odd. But I wouldn't really want it any other way.
Cheers.
Those pictures that JP was able to take for us, like backstage and in the lobby and stuff like that, like I've never done a show where we were able to get so many like high quality photos, because like obviously everything's volunteer run, and if we do have room in the budget to pay somebody, we obviously don't have a lot. So like it was just so nice to have him be like, oh, I have a whole setup with a backdrop and a light and a whole thing. Like we'll just take so many photos and memories and Polaroids and all that kind of stuff that like you really don't get in other shows, because he was able to do that for us, that we have so many awesome like tangible memories from the show to be able to remember by, because of that like setup he did for us. We wouldn't have had this photo or these memories if it wasn't for that. So that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, pretty much everything on the cube is a JP photo, right? Don't know how easy it is to see.
Yeah, the cube is awesome.
That was one of the best, you know, cast gifts to a team I probably ever received. Like that was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that was mostly Henry's expertise. So thanks, Henry.
JP had the idea in the photos. I just happen to own a silhouette cameo that can cut really precise stickers.
One of the wonderful selling features about Henry as well is the fact that he came with his own keytar.
How has it been taken till now for the keytar to be brought up?
I don't know, but it's been beside me this whole time, waiting for a dramatic reveal. Yeah, I used this first when I did Time Warp, when Kerry did that. So she knew I had it, and I'm always looking for an excuse to use the keytar, because like, when do you get those? Literally never.
Well, I came to see, what show was it? Oh, it was Light in the Piazza. And Henry
I totally had
the
the keytar on Light in the Piazza.
So yes, Henry had played his guitar in Time Warp, which I was the choreographer for. And then I came to see Light in the Piazza, and we had just, MTP had just announced the new season, which was Wedding Singer. And after the show, I kind of moseyed up to Henry and was like, so are you thinking of auditioning for Wedding Singer? And he's like, shall I bring my guitar? And I was like,
on the subject of the keytar, I don't think we could get through this whole night without me saying how grateful I am for all of the people who actually played instruments, because I think it just added a whole other level of that realism and that authenticity of the music. I was so super happy about that. I miss it.
How was that for you, Sean, playing guitar on stage for some of your numbers?
It was fun because I really hadn't played since high school, so it was kind of fun to dust it off and play more consistently than I'd probably ever played in my life.
Need you while you're near me. I don't feel blue. And when we kiss, I know you need me too. I can't believe I found a love that's so pure and true. But it all was bullshit. It was.
And then I think I can't, like, with the tip of the hat to Patrick for bringing out the sweet guitars that he had, because I have like a $200 guitar that I like I probably bought with a coupon when I was in like grade 9, and so his guitars were much better than anything that I could pull out. So it was awesome being able to play really nice guitars and being able to because I think that's just part of the show. Like I think it would really lose something, and without the live music and like with Henry, we really did feel like a band, the three of us, with Michael, and it was it was nice, even just that kind of camaraderie that we had, that we developed pretty quickly. And I think a lot of it was just practice, work hard, put your head down, because I think it brings so much more to the show when that Henry's playing that guitar in that number.
I also got to give a shout out to the moment where the guitar gets stuck and the key stucks for that hilarious intro.
I got it. Nice save. Rob, just doing my job. You're Holly's cousin, right?
Right, Julia Sullivan.
Let me hear it. Sorry. The keys got stuck.
So we've heard from a few people that Wedding Singer was your first production with MTP. For those of you who maybe had been a part of MTP before, how did you get to be involved with MTP?
I can go if you want. I was 17 and in high school, and my high school drama teacher was directing an MTP show and was just like, hey, audition. And I was like, okay. And I have been since then in every season but one, and never stopped, and I'm on the board and you can't get me away. So it has been almost 10 years of MTP for me, and I'm not stopping anytime soon.
So my first MTP show was actually, I wasn't even living in London at the time. My then girlfriend, now wife, she was going to Western here, and I took the opportunity to come and do Bat Boy, because Bat Boy was a cool sounding show, and it was kind of on an abbreviated rehearsal schedule. It was like a month and a half or something, which is kind of strange, but it made it a lot easier for someone out of town to come and live here for a little while and do the show. And I met Laura there and Kate there, Jeremy. It's really, that was a lovely, lovely show. I met a lot of really good friends there, and it was a lot of fun to do.
That was another one of those gems. Yeah, it was another one of those ones. Like, there's some people, and I'm sure Lo and Henry can speak more of this, but where you met some of those close friends that you've had forever, kind of thing, because of that. Very similar to Wedding Singer, they come up every so often, but Bat Boy was definitely one of those ones for me as well.
Oh yeah, that was my first MTP show. That was my second musical ever. Was doing Bat Boy. I was waitressing at the time, and people from the Grand were coming in where I worked, and I remember asking them, "Oh, is there like community theater in London?" And then they said, "Yeah," and that's how I met everyone and met some very good friends and friends that I've now known for a long time. What I've loved about Wedding Singer, though, was I, got to work with those familiar faces, but I met so many new people as well, and it was such a great blend. Or you knew this person or knew of this person, but never had the opportunity to work with them, and then finally you're there and you're like, I know who you are. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I've been doing MTP since Bat Boy. I want to say maybe every year or every other year. Lots of fun. I'm not going anywhere.
Bat Boy was my first show with MTP as well, and it's where I met Henry and Laura and Kate when she was much younger than she is now. And yeah, it was an interesting show. I was assistant stage managing that one, so I got to be backstage in the wings, witnessing all the nonsense. Laura has a lot of really fun stories she likes to tell people about how we met.
Sounds like we might have a future episode of MTP Reunited on our hands.
Yeah. And like I've done a few shows with MTP. I did a few in a row after that, really, and then took a bit of a break and did plays at the Palace for a while, and then came back to do Wedding Singer. So it's been a how long was that? Bat Boy was in 2013, I think. So since then, yeah.
I think my first experience with MTP was that I auditioned for the Drowsy Chaperone. And then they said, do you want to do props? So so I did props. They were great. And then after that, I was asked to stage manage Oklahoma, which was another really, really positive MTP experience for me. And I don't actually know how long ago that was, maybe 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, Drowsy Chaperone was 2012.
So cool, almost 10 years. That's really cool. And then I just kind of went from there, and I eventually, about 4 years ago, with MTP, made my way back on stage and did a number of shows since my backstage experiences. And I think every show I've done with MTP, I'm almost always a little bit backstage as much as I am on stage, but I think a lot of us are.
My first MTP show was Follies, which was in 2010, I think. And that was with Joe and Andrew, right? You guys were both working on, okay, and MJ was in it too. So that was 11 years ago, which is crazy.
And you were a wee thing then, as I recall.
I was 19. But yeah, that was my first community theater show I auditioned for straight out of high school. So that was cool to get into the London theater community a little more. And then since then, I won't say I've done a show every year, but done a bunch of shows kind of back to back. I've got my Heather's buttons on my 80s jacket. So yeah. And I won't be stopping anytime soon either. So.
My first MTV show was Defying Gravity, the cabaret. That was my first show ever, actually. And I heard about MTP because my older brother had done the cabaret the year before, Night of Mar, I think it was. So yeah, and I don't know how many MTP shows I've done. It was maybe 2-3 years or so.
I think my first show was 2005, when you were still doing Gilbert and Sullivan, because I had been to the I've forgotten the name of the theater in Talbot College. Talbot Theater?
It was the Talbot Theater then. I think it's the Paul Davenport now.
Okay. Because I'd watched a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan there, and I tried it once before and didn't get a part. And so I tried out for the Mikado, your 25th anniversary show, would it be? And I got a part as a Japanese schoolgirl. And it was a lovely show. We had a great time. And I liked doing Gilbert and Sullivan, and I came back and did a few more over the years, and I think I've done, I don't know. I really don't know how many shows I've done for MTP. I was in Follies. I was in Nonsense. That was one of yours. I tend towards Gilbert and Sullivan. They have big choruses.
And somehow you went from Gilbert and Sullivan to a rapping, swearing grandma.
It was an easy transition.
I learned about MTP through Original Kids Theatre Company. When I first moved to London, I got hired on as a musical director for OKTC, and then heard of MTP and auditioned for Oklahoma and was in that. And then I took a break just from being in musicals to continue on with my Original Kids journey. And then I couldn't resist with Wedding Singer. So that's my MTP journey.
So I'm curious with everybody, and not everyone has to answer this question, but I'm curious, how has being a part of community theater influenced your life?
I when I graduated high school, there were about 4 years outside of high school where I did not continue on with theater, which was like a huge part of my life up until high school ended. And then one day I lived in Old East Village, and I was around the corner from the Palace, and I just kind of walked down and asked if they needed any volunteers. And they said that I could help paint the sets, which is where I met you, Joe. And I think you were painting the set for Treasure Island. And yeah, I think theater for everybody, especially for those of us who do community theater, as a lot of us have said, like, you don't get paid to be there, and it's not your full-time job. So you're doing it for free, and you're doing it on top of everything else that is going on in your life. And there's just something about that I think makes it so special, that extra drive to want to be there. And it really, I think, fills, I don't want to say a void, but it has a really special place in your heart, right? Especially with shows like this one. And then so many of you in this show, we've also done other shows together, and those memories just grow, and it's not just shows, it's friendships, right? So I think that's a really important aspect of community theater.
So for me, I play in a band, and you know, I come from a big family, so I had a group of people with me for a long time, but I never, in sports teams or whatever, I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I was kind of the fringe guy, you know, have friends here and there, but nothing really solid, until I did this show with you wonderful people, and the energy and just giving everything you had, and again, just to make it a better show. That's it. That was the only reason. And it's to be part of something bigger than yourself, and something to give your energies to. It's awesome. I've never felt more outside of my immediate family. I've never felt like part of a group other than with you guys. So.
I remember when I did my first MTP show, I was still in high school, and I was having that debate of, do I want to go into theater for a living? And going to Beale and doing the musical theater program, there actually was the pressure to go into it. And I remember being one of the only like 2 or 3 of us in my program that were like, maybe I won't. Everybody else, like booking auditions for schools, all that kind of stuff. And I was really unsure about it, because theater and music have been a big part of my life since I could talk. Like, it's always been a part of my life. I've always done music. I've always done theater. And I remember when I did, my first show was White Christmas, and I was still in high school. And I remember seeing what it was like, all these people who have, you know, real jobs, like 9 to 5s, they're teachers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, whatever, and then come and do this at night and put on like a fantastic production. Like, it's no joke. Like, and I remember like White Christmas, like, at full tap numbers. These are people who work 9 to 5 out of school and then come and do a full tap number at night. Like, it was so mind-blowing to me that I was like, oh, like, this exists. And I remember, so because I didn't want to go into this for a living. I wanted to have a normal life. And so I remember being like, oh, okay, I can kind of have my cake and eat it too. I can lead that normal, stable life that I want, and still get my theater fix and get that community fix, and be able to perform within the confines of this wonderful thing called community theater that I didn't really know existed until I was able to do my first MTP show. So that's kind of what it's done for me, is let me to have that kind of double life that I wanted.
So I moved to London in 2012 after graduating from the musical theater program at St. Clair College in Windsor. But I moved here from from Chatham, actually, after living in Windsor, where there was literally nothing. There's like one theater group there, and they're very exclusive. I'll put it that way. That's a diplomatic way to put it, right? And moved to London, and I was living with, some of you may know Adam Zess. He was Batboy when we did that show. And I know several of you have done other shows with him. And he was in Legally Blonde at the time. And within 3 days of moving to London, I was stage managing Legally Blonde. And that's where I met Brittany, that's where I met Jesslyn. I think that was everybody. It was so long ago now, but met a whole bunch of people doing that show that I've worked with in a whole bunch of shows since then. And like Kate said, it really brings together a community. And when you are new to a city, it's nice to have a community to belong to. and it's helped me a lot living in London over the last almost 10 years. And I counted once recently, I think I've done 20 shows since I moved here less than 10 years ago, because I'm a crazy person. But it's been, and I think that's why it's been really challenging the last year without having theater. It's just been really rough not having that community to be part of. And it's nice to do things like this so that you have some connection to it, but it's been really difficult not having it for that reason.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I started theater like back in elementary school in Kingsville, Ontario, and then I did a show with Windsor Theatre Live. And I think I was in it would have been grade 12. And I just recently reconnected with somebody. So years later, right? And it's just a simple little message, right? On Messenger, and we're having a phone call, and she's gonna come and talk to my class. Like, it's just so cool. I remember I was in Toronto once at the whatever mall there, and I go into the store, and this guy and I look at each other, and we just go, High School Musical? What? Like, it was insane. Like, we haven't seen each other in forever. Toronto, like, I happened to just go into this store in Toronto, like, huge city. And we didn't even, it just took a second, and we knew High School Music. Like, it's just so, it's really, really cool, the connection. So in 10 years from now, when I see you in Wendy's on Oxford, no, I don't.
Just to kind of piggyback on what, Jeremy and Kate were both, saying, this is theater, and community theater is not only an amazing outlet for, an artistic side of things, but like it's a wonderful way that I can do something that's mine, that's for me, and then I meet people who are like-minded and are interested in the same thing. Like I said before, this show, I was so sad when it was over. Like, I remember Andrew leading the last vocal warm-up, and I'm pretty sure I was bawling my eyes out when we were all in the big circle. Like, I had full makeup on and had to stand like this because tears were just streaming down my face. The idea of not being able to see your faces I could cry now. I loved this show.
To continue off of that low, there was something that you did, Andrew. I think it was closing, or maybe it was opening, to help us appreciate the show. You said, if we were to do this again in 10 years, this exact show with these exact people, it's not going to look anything like it would this time around because of everything that everyone's going through in life right now that makes this show the way it is. And that really stuck with me. And it's something that I think about in other moments in my life too, because it's like nothing would ever be the way it is right now, even if we tried to recreate it. And that's what's so beautiful about community theater, is that you can't recreate moments. They happen and you can remember them forever. And it's the most incredible feeling probably in the whole world to come together as a group and put on something, like, because as Patrick keeps saying, because we want to, because we just want to put on a good show. I think that's the coolest thing, that people like doctors and business owners and the like, we all come together and do something that we all just are passionate about. I love that.
Credit for that exercise goes not to me. I can't take credit for that. That's a Dale Hurley thing.
And then maybe to build on what Jeremy was alluding to, what is everyone missing most right now, given that we are unable to do community theater and unable to get back together to do that next show?
I miss hanging out with theater people so bad. So bad.
That's what I was gonna say, like the performances, yeah, sure. The audience reaction performing, great. But like, I miss going to Krabby Joe's after the show. Like, that's what I miss, is like, the Wendy's lunches, or like the hanging out, joking around backstage. Like, it's not even being on stage. It's not even performing. It's like everything else. That's what I miss.
I miss like rolling into a 10 a.m. Saturday rehearsal and just knowing you're going to be doing it for like 4 to 6 hours, depending on where you are in the process, and like sneaking coffee so that the music director doesn't get mad at you, and then going out after for like something to eat and drink. I really miss just that whole atmosphere.
I miss the working together with other people towards a common goal. That's not our like main job that has all that pressure on it, right? I mean, there's pressure, but like we're working on things. I mean, we're all doing things to try and keep busy, but we're all doing our own things. I feel like, I don't know if everyone else feels this way. Whereas when we come together and do this, we're working on one thing all together as a team and just sort of moving forward again, because we want to, because we just want to make it better. And I miss that feeling of having a joint project with other people.
I already said that I miss the community part, so I'll say what else I miss about it. I miss that first time walking into an empty theater space when you're moving into the space and imagining what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks while you build the show in the space, while you put the show together, while you have that first rehearsal in the space, and then you have the actual show and an audience in there. I miss that build up. Just that being able to create something that's, and like Brittany was saying, it's temporary, but it's memories that we get to keep. And that's what I love about theater so much, is that it's like temporary art that we get to just keep the memories of. And it's tough not being able to create those memories right now.
So for me, Wedding Singer was, again, my first show. And one of the things that the wonderful, darling Kerry Hishon never told me about was post-show blues and how real it is. And since I had my heart broken in high school, I never felt anything like that. When that last show was done and we were all, you wake up the next morning and it's like, now what? And she told me, she said, "What now? What is you do your next show?" Oh, okay. So I did that. And then after show off, there was another show. So I did that show. And now there's no more shows. And all I have is post-show blues. So. Thanks, Kerry.
I feel you. I feel you big time on that. For me, I feel like I'm missing part of myself. And I think it's partially also because being a new mom, my whole focus now is shifted to my son. But I miss having that creative outlet. I miss the friendships. I miss the creativity. And I think it was Lo was saying, it's something for me. It's part of me that I'm missing, and that connectedness, and like Andrew said, coming together for a common goal and creating that, and just having that fun moment. And even when we think about the ridiculousness and sometimes it's stressful, and when we have the mishaps that happen and this and all that, we still look back on it with so many beautiful moments and so many wonderful memories and so many wonderful friendships. I think too, I've realized a bit too that the arts are not as appreciated as we would like them to be. And I think people are kind of realizing how integral it is to our everyday lives, and not just theater people, but everyone. But I miss that connectedness. I miss using that part of my brain. And right now it's not fun to think about, oh, what show am I going to do next? Because I don't know when it's going to be.
I think obviously it's the camaraderie, it's doing things for ourselves, but there is something to say about that magical energy that we all get when we're running a show and performing for an audience, that we all leave the stage and be, in my mind, like, we did that. That was so awesome. And the energy, at least that I feel like I personally expel when I'm doing something or running a scene with someone, I'm not getting that right now. Like, my cat can stare at me and I'll just be like, sing to me, cats, but it's just not the same. I think for me it's everything. I miss everything about theater right now.
I saw this thing on Facebook, and it said, like, it's one thing that's been kind of keeping me going, is it said, like, one we're finally back and we can finally do a show. Just imagine that energy when you're on stage and the lights come up. Like, it is going to be the coolest, like, that already feels amazing, but it'll just be like multiplied by like a zillion. And like, I just keep thinking about that. I'm like, especially like because of Joseph and everything that happened with that, and kind of the idea that I'm hoping that when we go back, that's kind of the first theater piece I get to do. Is I can't even imagine like what that's going to feel like, because it already feels so spectacular without having, you know, a year and a half away from it. Like, just that energy is going to be magical, and I just can't wait for that moment.
Oh yeah. Just imagine the line of people wanting to audition for the next MTP show. It's gonna be big.
I feel like when the lights go up on that first MTP show, like the whole cast is just gonna be sobbing, like completely out of character.
If it's Joseph, I have the first line. I will be sobbing. Like, it will not come out as words, and I'm apologizing in advance. It will be tears. It won't be words. So I'm sorry.
And you're all your hearts will be going so hard together, and you're all just going to be like,
it is right now, just talking about it, like, you know what I mean?
And the audience is going to be right there with you. They're going to feel that energy as well. So I feel like they're going to have the same reaction the first time the lights get to go up, and they get to feel that energy and get to feel that presence of those performers, not on screen, not in a Zoom meeting, not any of those things. And it's going to be amazing, and it's going to be palpable, and it's going to be the best thing ever.
You just can't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
I feel like when we are able to go back, you're not going to take anything for granted. The people, the experiences, the moments, you know, that pins and needles moment right before, you know, when you're behind a set or behind a curtain, and you can hear the audience, and then they kind of hush down when the lights, the house lights go down. That moment and the moments when the show are over, you're right. Those are kind of cherished memories, and that you'd hold forever. And I think it's going to be what a multiplier that being away from it is going to cause. And I think it is going to be just a beautiful thing when we all can get back together, when we can start rehearsing together and like being silly and having fun and all that kind of stuff. And then I think when the first shows go up after, it's just going to be like, you'll see that. I think that'll be kind of the true magic of theater will be present for everyone. And it's you know, it is something, I think, Kate, as you said, it's something to hold on to and look forward to, because, you know, every day we're one step closer to that happening. And I think every morning you kind of have to wake up and go, okay, one more day, and just kind of take it until we can get to that moment together.
One day more.
One day more, right.
I was right there with you, Jesslyn.
Awesome. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you all so much for joining us for this reunion of The Wedding Singer, and for this episode of MTP Reunited. I hope all of you watching enjoyed it as well. Please continue to follow MTP to see what our next projects are going to be, and continue to tune in for future reunions on MTP Reunited here on our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for supporting us, and we hope to see you back in the theater soon. Bye, everyone.